Welcome to Tales from the Fandom, a podcast that brings a special guest out of the multiverse and straight to you. And now your host, David Ginsburg.
And welcome to another episode of Tales from the Fandom. I am joined by a guest that is once again returning to the podcast, and I'm so excited to have her back. It's been nearly 3 years since we last talked, which seems to be a running thing with our recent guest, with a number of people that are coming back from that 3-year mark. I have who used to be called the Scarlet Stitch, and she still is, but she's revealed her secret identity. And I have Joe coming back to the podcast. How are you doing today, Joe?
I'm doing great. Having a great day, getting excited for Free Comic Book Day, as you do.
Exactly. It is right around the corner, too. It snuck up on me. I was like, what? Free Comic Book Day. And it's on May the 4th, which is just like fandoms colliding, comics and Star Wars.
It's perfect. I almost feel bad that I'm not going to be cosplaying from Star Wars that day. Instead, I'll be cosplaying Nadia Van Dyne from Unstoppable Wasp. But maybe I'll throw together a little Star Wars appreciation post after I pick up my free comics.
Well, there you go. And Nadia is a great character. I have been so happy with that comic and with her as a character.
Oh, it's absolutely fantastic. I can't tell you how many times that comic makes me cry. I will go out and I'll buy the comic. I'll be like, all right, I got to read this, but hold tissues under my eyes. I don't want to cry all over my new comic book. And then I'll have to go and read it online just because I'm that afraid of ruining my comic.
Oh my goodness. Now, as I said at the beginning, before we dive into some of the stuff that we're going to talk about today, it's been almost 3 years since we talked. You were one of my original, I would say my original 15 or 20, my solid starting group of people who gave up their time for this podcast that there's nothing. I reached out to people. I was like, hey, I've got this podcast idea that I want to do, and would you like to give up your time and do it? And you were one of the people that did, and I'm so grateful to you. But it's been almost 3 years. So you and I follow you. I follow you on Twitter and on Facebook and Instagram. What for those who maybe have listened to your episode, what have you been up to since we recorded?
Well, I graduated high school and I've started university all the way in Calgary, Alberta. So a little bit of a trek from just around Washington, D.C., the Virginia area. And I just completed my second year at university where I plan to be majoring in the fiber arts and textile arts. So that's been a pretty big step, living in a new country. Not that different. It's not that intimidating, but it's still a different country. And I get reminded of that quite often. And sort of figuring things out in school and figuring out how I can still balance that cosplay life and school life, because art school is very intense. And some of my teachers don't necessarily love when I mix the two, or I try to bring more cosplay into it. I have had a teacher who explicitly said that there has been nothing in the world of cosplay that he has seen that's impressed him. So that wasn't great.
If the webcam was turned on right now, you would have seen my eyes just become giant, cartoony, giant-sized saucer eyes of disbelief, because the stuff that I've seen online from people, not to mention in person, I don't understand where that professor could make that comment.
Oh, it's absolutely insane. And we're starting to get industry recognition from the sewing industry and stuff. One that doesn't necessarily apply to me, but when sewing companies that sell machines that take payment plans to pay off are willing to recognize that the cosplay community is a legit thing, I think teachers need to start realizing that this is something that artists can make a living off of, and just because they're not necessarily creating their own design for it doesn't mean that it's not still artwork,
Exactly. And it blows my mind, because I know of a cosplayer who got recognized by the costume designer on a TV show, and she was so impressed by how the cosplayer did their basically redid a dress just from seeing it on the show. And it's stuff like that where it is completely recognized and valid, and I just don't get it.
Yeah, I don't know, some of my art teachers are kind of insane, so, like, I learn to take what they say with a grain of salt, and then other ones I'm like, "Yeah, I just made a little mock-up of, like, a crochet spaceship because that's something I wanna do one day," and she's like, "Alright, you got an A," because like, I've never heard of something that, like, bizarre, so, I mean, it was a fun project, so here you go, A. I'm like, "Thank you.
I'll take the A.
I'll take it."
Now, how did you wind up in Canada? And just out of curiosity, because I mean, that's a huge step. Not only going, you finished high school, you graduated, you go off to college, but Canada.
Yeah, so it's kind of like a mix of influences. One big thing is that my grandmother is actually British Jamaican, and almost all of her relatives, when everybody left Jamaica, when they're like, all right, it's time to get out, almost all of them went to Canada. So, like, we had so much family here that we had, like, visited and stuff. We had family friends that had lived, like, across the street from us for, like, most of our elementary school years, also moved to Canada. So I'd visited really close people and spent, like, a lot of time there and realized, oh, this isn't that different from the States. And I guess when I like do my college searches and stuff and I see something that's in Canada, like it wasn't too crazy or jarring. I could definitely continue that on my list. And I'm not flying across the ocean, so it's not going to be like super expensive. And then I looked into it more. And it's actually way more affordable for me to go to school here than it would be to go to school in Virginia, which is the state I'm from. In-state tuition in Virginia would still be like $10,000 more than it is for me to go to school here in Canada, and I'm paying twice as much as the Canadians, pay in this province, and I don't know if they do the province like, within their provinces, out of, like, province tuition is more like we do in the States where, like, somehow it's automatically, like, twice as much just to be an
Hmm.
out-of-state student. Like, some people were saying that for some schools, that's, like, not a big thing here. 'Cause, like, I know kids who are paying $7,000 a semester. Like, you can work and, like, save up for that, and you're not in debt for the rest of your life. Like, parents here must just, like, I don't know, just sleep soundly at night, and I have healthcare. So, like, it was a lot of things, but then when I saw the financial aspect of it, I was like, "Wow, this is really cool." It was also around 2016 that I was like November 2016 that I was finalizing my applications, and then, the election happened. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna like add a non-US school here. I don't mind being outside of the states for the next 4 years. I'm okay with that.
Hmm.
It's just, especially growing up so close to DC, it's just very hectic. So I was like, let's get far away. And I've learned that you really can't outrun politics anywhere. It's going to be hectic no matter what, especially at an art school with young people who just have lots of ideas, which is, like, great. It's great to have those conversations and stuff, and I've loved it, but sometimes it's nice to just be like, "I just wanna sit here and crochet and get graded on what I'm crocheting, and then look outside the window and see mountains. That's so pretty."
That blows me away. Like, not only, um, like the tuition itself, that mind-boggling just blows me away.
Yeah. I mean, they're
Wow.
not trying to set up their, like, children for, like, disaster here. I don't know, they want people to graduate and, like, actually be able to go out and, like, do stuff with their life, which is pretty cool. I know, like, things are changing and people are gonna be like, "Well, that's not for long. We're gonna start being more American here sooner or later." And then some people will be like, "Well, we're never gonna make the same mistakes as the States." I'm just like, along for the ride, trying to see what's happening. I'm like, "Oh, it doesn't matter if you become more American because that's what I'm used to, but, like, if you stay Canadian and cool, that'd be awesome too."
Yeah, I'll take that. I know that I know that we've always talked about, like, man, it'd be nice if we could just move to another country, but then there's always just so much stuff, in that it entails, like, you have to have so much money, or you have to have like a special skill, or be a business owner or something. It's like, I want to try somewhere else.
Yeah, that's fair. I definitely got lucky with the whole, like, student opportunity because I know when I graduate, I will be eligible for this type of work permit, which means I can work anywhere in Canada for 3 years after my graduation, which just it doesn't exist for somebody to get that work permit unless they were a student here and they graduated from a Canadian university as an international student. So I'm very lucky for that. I'm definitely going to take up that opportunity. I don't know if I'm going to stay here long term, but I still have at least 2 more years of school and then those 3 years for a work permit. So I'm kind of looking at staying here for the next 5 years.
That's a good long range plan, and you definitely have a lot of opportunity up there for who know, like, just lots of stuff, lots of
Yeah.
stuff. Back when we talked, way back, and I pulled up your information so that way I could see what we talked about. You were episode 10. We talked about The Walking Dead, Marvel Comics, and the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Shock upon shock on that one. Um, we talked specifically like Kamala Khan and Unbeatable Squirrel Girl, and then we talked about your cosplay, um, and even a web comic called Check Please.
Oh, yes. Check, please. I love that.
Way back in the day. So if you want to listen to Scarlet, original 3 year younger version of Scarlet, check out episode 10, and I'll have the links in the show notes. But we talked beforehand, and we're going to dive into something that you have gotten into, I guess, since we talked, and it totally ties into the Marvel Cinematic Universe and the print version of, you got into comics, and more specifically Marvel Comics, but Marvel Comics.
Yeah, well, I mean, from the early podcast, I was definitely into some comics, but more like Ms. Marvel and Squirrel Girl, and then that was kind of it. And now I live in walking distance from a comic book shop, and it's just bad news for me. My first roommate, for my first year of school, the reason we decided to be roommates, because you could like pick out your roommates and like try to like talk to people and see who you'd want to live with. We became roommates because we both read Young Avengers. And we're like, okay, I guess we're both like on the same level of nerdiness that we could like live together. And then sort of groups of like people that I've been around are just like so pro comics that it's just been a dangerous mix of like I walk home from school, I'm like, it's been a long day. I'm just gonna stop in the comic book shop because it's Wednesday. What's going on? And then I'm like, oh, that's a pretty cover. Oh, that's a character I love. Gotta like pick up everything. And I've especially been into Champions lately. Jim Zub, one of the writers for it, was at Calgary Expo this weekend, and I got him to sign one of my comics. I think it was like number 26. It was one where Miles's school had a school shooting, which was like something so intense. But like you're seeing it in a superhero book, so you're like, oh, this is like their everyday. But wait, no, this is not a Spider-Man moment. This is a Miles Morales moment, and I don't know. I thought it was just such a great comic, and it was another one that got me really emotional. I don't know. I get very emotional about comics. And then, of course, Unstoppable Wasp is one that I'm picking up constantly. Jeremy Whitley just writes the best comics. Also, Princeless by Jeremy Whitley, a non-Marvel title, is so good. I'm really hoping to go to New York Comic Con this year so that I can get Jeremy Whitley to sign some of my stuff because I don't think he comes to any cons out here. He went to Awesome Con, which is where I met him a couple years ago when I got Princeless, like the first trade paperback, and I got signed from him. I'm like, cool, this is neat. And then like later I started reading Unstoppable Wasp. I was like, wait, I know this name. That's because you were at a con. And now I'm like, oh, he's not coming out here for any cons. And then he came out for like Emerald City Comic Con, which is like just farther than me. I'm like, oh, it's like a 2-hour plane ride. I could have done it. It's cool. I'll somehow find a way to go to New York Comic Con just so I can see him again and talk about Wasp.
Yeah, you name dropped a number of great comics. I stopped collecting again, so I'm off the comic drug right now. But I do keep up to date with some of the comics, and Champions was one of those where I fell in love with the roster and the writing, and it's a great team. I loved what they were doing. I think I got out like on issue 6 or 7, so I haven't been keeping up with it. But then you talk about Unstoppable Wasp, and I've heard so many great things about that series and the run that's going on. And I remember there's a big thing about Princeless last year where they were talking about not renewing it or not continuing with it, and there's a really big Twitter push to get the word out there about what it was and get people like really invested in it. And I remember like Amazon sold out of all of their stock because of people just, going all in on it.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, I love the power of Twitter and, like, the Twitter comics sort of, like, corner of Twitter, I guess, is just so fun. It makes me so excited, and, like, sometimes I'll be like, "Ah, I wish I could read a new comic. I wonder what's going on," and somebody will post, like, a reading, like, guide for a certain character that they're really passionate about. I'm like, "You know what? I never cared about this character until today, but, like, I'll go read all of." I don't know, I'm trying to think of a good example, but I can only think of characters that I do genuinely care about. There's so many accounts that are like let's talk X character. And like there's a Jane Foster one that's super good. Because it goes into her appearances in like the Thor comics, but like the Mighty Thor comics too, and then now War of the Realms, which is just
Hmm.
insane. I haven't really been keeping up with War of the Realms as much as I'd like to be because so many things are happening. But I'm planning to get caught up very soon and pick up some more stuff on Free Comic Book Day.
Yeah, I'm really interested in what's going on. I try to keep up to date with all the crossovers as far as just, where are the characters that I like? Are they still around? Are they being written, or have they kind of like gone to the background again? And just keeping abreast of what's happening. And I'm really interested to see what they're going to do, because some of the teams that they have in those books are just teams you'd never even expect to be paired, like people paired together. And how's that going to work? And what are they going to do? And it just it's wild.
Oh yeah, they're definitely having fun with it now. Especially a book that I particularly love that's out now is Marvel Team Up #2 with Spider-Man and Ms. Marvel. In this one, they have like a body swap thing. So like Peter Parker is in Kamala Khan's body trying to like learn how to embiggen and use all of her inhuman powers, and she's in his body and she doesn't know how to thwip or like web sling, and it's a really fun time.
Three about 3 years ago we talked, and Kamala Khan was one of your big characters, one of the characters that you really loved. And I have to imagine that love continues.
Oh, for sure. For my tentative New York Comic Con lineup, she's two of my three cosplays. And she's a character that's grown so much. It's been 5 years since she was announced now. And G. Willow Wilson, her original author, like this year, wrote the last issue that she's writing for Kamala. And it was like really sad. And then it was like, oh no, who's going to take over? And then it's now Saladin Ahmed, who does an amazing job. He's also writing the Miles comic, so it's like really cool to see these two characters that you're like, oh, they're like BFFs at least, and now they're written by the same person, and it's just going to be like really fun, and it totally is. But like outside of comics, she also is in Marvel Rising, which has been really fun to see, and to see more people like have access to Kamala's character and stuff. I really hope down the road that we get Kamal in the MCU, but I'm also very nervous because they have a tendency to like cast characters of ethnicities that make people a little mad, or they'll do stuff to play it safe, like how they whitewashed Ancient One in Doctor Strange so they could keep their Chinese audience because he was supposed to be like a Tibetan character. They're like, well,
Hmm.
we'll make her a white woman and then nobody will be angry, which wasn't really true, but like the audience that they wanted to not be angry wasn't. So it was fine. So I just really hope that if they do make a Kamal in the MCU, that they go out of their way to cast either a Pakistani American or just like a Pakistani of some degree. I don't care if they're like British Pakistani, Canadian Pakistani. It's really important because as a quarter Pakistani woman, you don't see that kind of representation in the media, and people, I don't know, people don't really care unless they are Pakistani, which is sad, but We'll see. We'll see. Maybe the world's changing and we will get a good casting for Kamala.
That is definitely something that I feel has become more of a it's definitely become more of an issue since we last talked, because there has been a number of movies or TV shows, not even within like the Marvel universe, but I'm talking like the entire just television movie industry,
Mm.
where there has been that outcry from people saying you really need to start casting people of like that ethnicity, like stop just putting them into the roles that you think they should be, and just if they're trying to be a main character, let them be a main character, or don't and don't be like, oh well, this person is filling in for someone from, let's say, like Africa, but they don't even have a connection to Africa, like something
Yeah.
like that, where it's definitely become more of a vocal outcry. Even when they announced the Avatar TV series for Netflix, and the original creators were like, we are not whitewashing this TV series, we will be casting actors of the proper ethnic backgrounds for these characters.
I'm so nervous for that show, man. I don't know. I have like decent hopes for it, but I don't want to get my hopes too high because that movie was just so soul crushing. But yeah, even
Yeah.
like with the Aladdin movie, I'm like, I'm not putting any money towards that. I have friends who are like, "Oh, I have to go because the main actress who plays Jasmine was in Lemonade Mouth, and that was like our favorite Disney Channel original movie." I'm like, but I can't support that. People like their articles have come out where they actively said that they used brown face on extras because they didn't find any Middle Eastern people who could like handle camels or like sell streetwears in the background. I'm like, what are you? Disney, you have so much money. Of course you can find people. No excuses.
That is so hard to believe, and I can't believe that there's even a like, why would you even do, like, you have the money, you can do whatever you need to do for that. I don't know, I don't get it.
Yeah, sometimes it makes me a little sad. But then like I just go back to cosplay and I'm like, look, anyone can be this character and we'll just like pretend this is how it went down, or we'll just go back to the original source material, which is all great, and we don't even have to worry about bad like adaptations and stuff.
Exactly. Now, so you've been in the Marvel comics, and your big ones are Champions and Miss Marvel and Unbeatable Wasp, and it seems like we're on that trend of younger, like a younger character or younger group of heroes for you. Is it because you more identify with them because of your age as well, or is it just writing and art and everything is awesome?
I definitely think that part of it is because I'm like a youth myself and like I'm still in school, so characters who are like balancing school life and other stuff. In some ways I can see me balancing like this cosplay slash like my own business and stuff with school, whereas they're like saving the day and doing like high stakes stuff while also like, getting an education, or with like Nadia just becoming like a citizen is like a big thing for her. So I think that's part of it, but also I just yeah, the artwork is really fun for a lot of these. I was such a fan of the most recent Champions artwork. Like some panels looks like I was like, I could frame this. This is so pretty. But there are other stories with like more grown up characters that I enjoy. Um, and I'm like blanking on a lot of them. But I don't know, it just feels, like, easier to read about youths and stuff because, like, no matter what happens, they still have so much to learn, or they have, like, so much ahead of them down the road, and with some of these older characters, it's like, "Alright, are they gonna kill them off in this next panel? Because I'm not prepared for that. I'm here for a good time, and that's what these kids give me, like, fun, like, low stakes. Oh, sometimes they're pretty high stakes, like, for champions and stuff. But like for Squirrel Girl and stuff, it's a pretty chill time. So I don't know.
Absolutely. When you get Squirrel Girl beating up like everybody in the Marvel universe, you know that it's not something that you really need to take seriously.
Yeah, for sure.
So on top of you getting into Marvel and having a comic book store right down the street, which is awesome but very dangerous. One of the shows that you and I both watch, and in fact, as of May 2nd, which is when we're recording, we just finished it at our house. The Netflix series She-Ra and the Princesses of Power.
Yeah, I love that show, man. I didn't really watch the original one. I like love cheesy like 80s cartoons like the original Voltron and like Legend of Zelda and like Gem and the Holograms. I don't know. It's just like super fun to me. So I did go back and rewatch She-Ra and it's just so over the top and like a perfect like annoying cartoon way that it's like this is great. But the new stuff is just fantastic. I can't believe that there are kids who are growing up with this, like, as their cartoon. Like, I would have loved that then, but, like, I still love it now. I'm still gonna be like, I'll consume the kid content that I didn't get when I was a kid. Although I did get Pokemon and, like, the Hoenn series, so, like, that was fine for me. I wasn't, like, deprived from cartoons as a kid. But She-Ra's just it's amazing because you have all of these characters and the creators like, yeah, if you want them to be queer in any way, please don't assume all of my characters are straight. And then in the new season, she's pretty much like, oh yeah, we're not gonna like waste our time with like having all of these characters be straight and like their redesigns from their original looks. I saw so many people getting annoyed when the season originally came out. That was why I decided to watch it. I was like, oh, it looks like some people are really hurt by the fact that women are just dressed realistically.
Hmm.
Maybe I'll check this out and see what it's about because I think the creators did a good thing with like what they changed in terms of a children's cartoon. And then I was like, this is so cool. I'm gonna cosplay everyone. And so far I've only cosplayed Perfuma, but I do want to cosplay almost everybody on that show. Maybe not like Kyle, but like all of the princesses for sure. And Bo, I have to make like a crop top. I mean, he's a crop top king.
It was definitely something where I had no idea it was even in the works. I had no clue until I saw. I think it's probably on Twitter where somebody had posted the artwork, and I was like, "There's a new She-Ra." Okay, like because they had Voltron, and Voltron was super awesome. And
Mhm.
I was, Netflix has been doing really well on their animated front of whoever they're getting to do their animation, and the story has been incredible. And I grew up on 80s cartoon shows, Voltron and He-Man and She-Ra and G.I. Joe and all that type of stuff. Like I grew up on all of that stuff. I'm an 80s kid of just seeing that stuff. And when it came out, we decided to watch it as a family and really have been digging it. I mean, between Voltron, the Dragon Prince, and She-Ra, it's like a triple threat of just really great story and animation that is for everybody.
Oh, for sure. I will say that Voltron left me a little like I don't know, unsatisfied with like the final episodes, but for the most part, I love that. I'll still probably cosplay from it. I know people who have like sworn it off. I'm like, okay, all right, just because your character didn't get the ending you wanted, that's fair, I guess, if you're done with it. But I'm like, I still have invested time in this fandom, and like She-Ra, I don't see it like I don't know. It just looks like the creators really care about the story that they're telling. Like even the Instagram page is like constantly sharing cosplayers and stuff, and it just seems like a
Hmm.
really wholesome community, and I really enjoy it. And I especially enjoy Mermista, even though I haven't cosplayed her yet. I love that I love her sass, but I also was like, wait, she's supposed to be like Desi. She's definitely inspired by like Indian like attire and like architecture and stuff. She's wearing a sari at Princess Prom. Like that's so cool to me. And it's just like really interesting that they're not all supposed to be like weird white fantasy characters, you know? Like they definitely establish it so it's like anyone can see themselves as a princess in some degree. And it's just really wholesome. And then Mermista and Perfuma being like BFFs or maybe girlfriends in season 2. I like that you can interpret it either way. Is just really good and makes me really happy.
I love Mermista. Just straight out of the gate, loved her. I loved Seahawk. Seahawk is incredible, and I think and for people that are still watching or haven't watched yet, this I'm totally going to have spoilers, so skip ahead for a little bit. I really loved in this season the conversation between Seahawk and Scorpia,
Oh my gosh, yes, that was so good.
because they both and man, Scorpia is that one character where I just I get that she's on the horde side, but I could I just want the other princesses to just like give her hugs and be like, "You're okay, like everything's cool," because
Yeah.
she generally just is like this such a sweet character.
Oh, she's so wholesome. She definitely needs to get the love that she deserves, and she's not gonna get it from the Horde. But even Catra, I feel like needs to have a meaningful redemption arc because like you see like how people have treated her and how she's just been manipulated her whole life, and it's like it's really hard to see you as like this evil villain who's like incapable of like goodness because you were obviously shaped to be this way, and I just wish you would listen to Adora and learn that she's here to help you heal. And Entrapta, she just cares about science, like good for her, but like maybe focus on science that's not hurting friends.
Hmm. And yeah, that like Bo even like points it out, and it's like, come on, don't you realize what you're doing?
Yeah.
So I gotta know, like, who's your favorite on that show?
Hmm. Um, See, I tend to like have a favorite and then like I'll cosplay somebody regardless of my favorite, and who I cosplay ends up going higher on the list. So Perfuma's not actually like the highest character on my list. I'm actually a huge fan of Catra, and I think that making like a yarn wig for her will be like super cool and has been a plan for a while. I just haven't gotten to it yet. But I also plan on cosplaying Entrapta because I just want to crochet those pigtails and look ridiculous. But so like now perfume is really up there because I've been getting like great responses from that, and people are like, "Oh, I really like your perfume." I'm like, "Okay, I got to do her other outfit now, and I got to just like keep going with Perfuma because people like it and I am good at it." So I don't know, I like when I'm good at a character and it gets good feedback. So now she's like high on the list, but Catra's still like just above her, and I don't know if I'll do like more Perfuma stuff and Catra will go under Perfuma or not. Um and I love She-Ra's design, but, like, Adora as a character isn't necessarily my favorite.
Mhm.
I don't really dislike many people on the show. It would just be, like, I don't know, I guess, like, Shadow Weaver's not a favorite. Um, Beau is just, like, a really wholesome character who I love, but I would find it very ironic for myself to be, putting, like, the male character in this show full of, like, amazing female characters at the top of the list.
Mhm.
But, like, there's nothing wrong with that if that's, like, what happens and that's who your favorite is. It's just for me, I'm like, "Cool, this is such, like, a girl power show." I'm not gonna be like, "The man is my favorite." But he's so good, I love him. So, yeah, I guess hi, Catra and Perfuma.
Yeah, I think this season was incredibly short. It's only 7 episodes, but I can totally see a redemption storyline for Catra coming. It has to at some point, and you know, in this season they mentioned what Beast Island or Monster Island, and I'm thinking, I wonder what is that place. I hope they show it to us, and I wonder if Catra is going to go there soon.
Yeah, that it sounds really intense, I'm excited. I wanna see more of Raz again. I don't know, I just really liked her. I just, like, remembered her while you were, like, talking. I was like, "Yeah, Beast Island is cool. Wait, I want the little crazy witch lady back in my life because she's also someone I'm going to cosplay."
Oh, there's so many good ones. I really hope somebody, I don't know who will do it or how it would work, but I'd love to see somebody make Entrapta's hair where it can actually move, like on its own.
Oh yeah, it's only a matter of time until somebody figures that out, and it's gonna be amazing when they do. It's definitely not gonna be me. Mine is just gonna be soft and light, and I'm not gonna like break my neck while I cosplay her. And I'm excited for that. Like I might put wire in it, but I don't think I'll put enough wire to like suspend myself because then I can't walk. Then it
Right.
becomes
Yeah.
like an installation piece at the con, those cosplayers who like wear like these giant armor suits or like whatever they're wearing that's too massive for them to walk around and then they just like stand there all day at the con while people take photos, which is so cool. I just need mobility. I could not
Yeah.
stand being like that stationary at a convention.
That is the one thing that always is, and it still does. And we've got our big convention coming up in a couple weeks where I people in those big costumes or with the big heels or the big boots, and I feel so bad. Like,
Yeah.
do you go home afterwards and you're just like, my body's broken, I can't walk anymore?
I will say, when I was wearing my flip flops for Perfuma, because she's barefoot, but I didn't have time to make like the pseudo like the super like clear flip flops or whatever that people make so it looks like they're barefoot. I was like, I'll just wear flip flops because that's canon for a hippie. We're okay. Like it'll be fine. I don't normally wear flip flops. If anything, I'll wear like sneakers or I'll wear like low heels. But I never wear like flat shoes, and I never wear shoes that go like in between your toes like a flip flop does. So I
Hmm.
had like terrible blisters before I even got to the convention because it took like a half hour of like walking to like the train station and like training to get to the con, and I was like, my feet are gonna bleed by the end of the day. And then of course it snowed, and I was like, okay, it doesn't matter if my feet are bleeding because they have frostbite at this point. Princess Frosta is jealous that she wasn't the one I cosplayed, and I cosplayed the plant one. I'm sorry, I thought it was good. It was warm last year. And I was like wearing heels for like other costumes. Like heels never give me this much trouble. I'm sure they would have in the snow. I would be slipping, but for the most part, I can do heels. I just can't do like flats or like flip flops because then it just like hurts my foot too much.
Totally understand. So with Shira, we've got like the two seasons. How many seasons do you think we're gonna get? I mean, Voltron went what, 6 or 7?
I think it was 7 seasons for Voltron, but, like, one of them was super short, and it would, like those 2 seasons felt like they could have been 1, which is I
Hmm.
definitely think the next, like, She-Ra season is gonna be another one of those short ones, and then hopefully they'll realize that we want full seasons again. I would hope for at least as much as Voltron, if not more. I feel like this show could be more long-lasting in a way where, like, Voltron like, the stakes were so high to begin with in Voltron, and you're just like, "Alright, well, the universe is sort of safe right now." Like, if you go on to, like, the day-to-day, like, smaller things, like what happens afterwards that they sort of touched on at the end, it's like, well, that this doesn't really, like, meet the, like, intensity of the show, where, like, this is, like, so much more character driven that even if we have, like, episodes of, like, Catra learning how to be a nice person to, like, Glimmer or somebody, like, later on, I feel like it would still fit the show and people wouldn't be like, "What's this?" They'd be like, "Oh, yay, we get to see characters that we've spent so long, like, caring about their day-to-day and their, like, emotional state." We get to see how they recover and stuff too, and so it has the ability for me to last for, like, 10 seasons, I don't know, but I can't say. I have no idea what their plans are. I hope it lasts longer.
I hope so too. I'm really intrigued by the storyline that they're laying down with the portals and with other planets, and I'm very curious to see where they may go with it because old school 80s She-Ra, she was the twin of Adam, who was He-Man,
Mhm.
and I'm like, are they gonna like put him in there somewhere? Are they gonna go in a completely different direction? Are we gonna get like the Princesses of Power traveling through space or going on other planets? And I'm really curious about all of that. Plus, of course, like all the first one stuff, and it's just there's so much, and now I want more. I want more. Give me answers.
Exactly. I'm just hoping we get our answers soon and we get a full season next time. But yeah, seeing them go through space would be a lot of fun. I feel like they've said that they weren't gonna introduce He-Man, but I've also, like, learned not to trust most creators on things. I've just lost all trust for when people are like, "We will do this or we won't do this," sort of thing. Because then, like, people will be like, "Oh, we just wanted to, like, surprise you, so we told you we weren't gonna do this." So, like, maybe we will. I know some people were memeing saying Kyle was gonna be He-Man. I was like, I doubt that, but, I mean, more power to poor Kyle.
Yeah, it is. It's I don't know. I totally understand where you're coming from. Like when you say don't trust the creators, because I've seen on comics Twitter where people are like, you said that you were going to do this with X character, and now it's 2 years later, and not only did you not do anything, but you've basically like shunted the character off, and there's not even a mention of the character at all,
Yeah,
and it's just sad.
it is, and I don't know, like, people can get so passionate about characters, like, I myself definitely get really intense with, like, certain characters. So I get that it can be, like, hard to interact with people who are like, like, could you take away this perfect character for me?" Like, I don't wanna, like, spoil War of the Realms and stuff since that's, like, currently going, but, like, I don't really like what they're doing with Jane Foster right now. I don't really like Valkyrie things happening right now. I really liked Jane Foster before War of the Realms, and I'm very unhappy, but it's like they probably already had that decided months ago, like, or even years ago with like these big event comics. Sometimes they plan them like so far in advance, and it's like I don't know. They thought this was right for the character. I'm sure they didn't intentionally mean to like make people upset.
Hmm.
I just gotta like remind myself that like they thought this was a good idea. Maybe I'll keep reading to see what happens. But for when they like forget about a character and move on to like a different one, it's like, okay, whoa. Let's go back. At least hand off the character to somebody who cares, please.
Exactly. And yeah, I totally it's something where you do have to wonder, okay, they've got everything laid out, but I you can't plan that far ahead sometimes because people latch on to characters and you just want what you want, or the people that are really enjoying it are like, we want more of this character, and you're like, oh well, I'm sorry, we had like a 5 year plan, and that character like fades away after a little bit.
Yeah, that's pretty much how I feel about Young Avengers. Like the roommate and I who like bonded over Young Avengers and decided to live with each other were just like, yeah, when are they coming back? And Marvel was like, all right, in 2019, you're going to see Young Avengers again. There's going to be a Young Avengers Champions Runaways crossover. And we're like, that's too good to be true. We shouldn't get excited about it. But of course, like everybody got excited about it. And we're like, all right, we're 5 months in. Where's our like crossover? We need it now. But
Exactly.
Unstoppable Wasp next week will feature a lot of the original characters from the Young Avengers, just because Nadia happens to be related to two of them. So I guess they get invited to her birthday party. So everybody that's like in the Young Avengers fandom is like, all right, they're only going to be on 2 pages, but everybody, we got to pick up that book because that's how we vote. Yes, we need them back. We need them in print right now.
And yeah, I think Jeremy Whitley had posted and was like, if you really want to show your love, you need to pick that book up and let people know that you're getting it because of the Young Avengers, and maybe you'll get that push.
Yeah, and now people are like, oh, also when we buy it, we also want Jeremy Whitley to write Young Avengers because he deserves to. And I definitely agree with that. I think he would do a great job writing those characters. I know two of the Young Avengers were in West Coast Avengers, which was a fun comic. It's just certain things about those characters, like in terms of like one of them for sure being a queer character, and another one who definitely could have been bi, but was sort of like rewritten to be like aggressively straight in that comic was very disappointing to fans because it's like it's fine if you give her a boyfriend, but you don't need to be that like rude to like people who have been reading her from other like comics where like authors had said like yeah she can be bi, you can interpret her that way. And
Hmm.
I don't know, it was just like poor Kate Bishop had a like really rough time in West Coast Avengers, but also it gave us this character Jeff who's a little land shark, a shark with like arms and legs, so I can't be mad at that comic.
Oh my goodness. I did not read any like because I heard West Coast Avengers was coming back,
Mhm.
and it was definitely one of those where I have fond memories of like the original West Coast Avengers, but I saw the roster and I was like, oh, this is a really interesting West Coast Avengers crew.
Yeah.
Um, but hopefully I'll be able to read maybe like a trade or something and catch up and see what was going on. But a land shark, that's cool. I'm down with a land shark.
Yeah, I mean, he gets to be on the team, so it's, like, a really fun time. The friend, who loves Young Avengers, I'm actually crocheting the land shark because it becomes Gwenpool's pet. So, like, I'll be crocheting a Gwenpool cosplay eventually, and that'll be my prop because I don't wanna get a bunch of, like, swords and guns and, like, have to go to, like, prop check with that. I was like, "I'll just carry a shark, that way I can say I have a prop, and it counts." And then she's getting Jeff when I'm done, because I have nowhere to store stuff.
That's very cool. And so you bring up cosplay, and nearly 3 years later, you are still doing it.
Yeah, as much as I can, not as much as I used to be. I don't know when it was, but there was like one year that I did like 30 costumes or something, including like cos tests and like casual cosplays. But like I was like, whoa, that's amazing. Maybe I'll just like keep on adding to that list. And then I started school. I'm like, all right, I don't even have free time to sleep. I don't know if I can cosplay. And then I was like, gotta find a way. So whenever I'd get like breaks here and there, I'd be working on like casual sweaters and doing like more looks inspired by characters rather than like explicit cosplays because that was what I could do at the time. And now that I'm out of first year and it's less of like drawing till your hand falls off and more of like, all right, do projects that don't make you super sad all the time, like projects you care about. I can sort of manage my time better and be like, all right, this is a reasonable amount for me to do. This is what my project for school is going to be. That also gives me time to work on stuff over the next couple of weeks for, like, say, a movie premiere or like a video game release. I don't know why I said that. I haven't done any video game cosplays recently unless you count Bowser. But even that wasn't that recent. I was supposed to wear Bowser at Calgary Expo, but it had arrived too late because my mom had to send it to me. So I will be wearing it for OdaFest in a couple weeks, which is also here in Calgary. Um, yeah, so I've really been working to balance it. When I had KatsuCon, I started those cosplays like 2 months in advance, which is something so new for me for Katsu Crunch because normally I like get all my costumes out in 2 weeks and I'm like crocheting. Well, in high school, I was crocheting in class, and now if I'm crocheting in class, it's because I'm doing like an actual project for class. And those projects can't be cosplay because that's not what the teacher's here to like teach me or like grade me on. So like I'm actually trying to make sure I have plenty of time to get stuff done. And I was done a week in advance, which was such a big accomplishment for me because I never do that much con crunch and like finish it that early in advance. It was like such a milestone. I'm like, I'm an adult now. I can handle anything. And then like the whole flight disaster flying out, my bags got lost. I didn't have my costumes that were done a week in advance. I was like at the airport for 12 extra hours. I was like awake for 26 hours. Um, and like that con was kind of a nightmare, but then they did get there eventually and I was able to wear everything. It did work out. And then like I got back from KatsuCon, I'm like, all right, no big costumes for a while. I'm good. And then my friend's like, what about Calgary Expo? Are you like making stuff for that? I was like, oh, you're right. That is a thing that's happening. So I decided to just do one big one for that. And that big one was going to be for Fuma because I had done a cause test for her last year, like when the new season dropped, which was like incredibly like successful. People were like, "Whoa, this is really great. You should definitely do Perfuma." And then like a couple months passed, and I was like, "I don't know. Maybe I'll do her. Maybe not." And then people were like, when are you gonna do Perfuma? Because like we want to see the full costume. I'm like, okay, you actually really care about this character. I'll make it happen. And then like the other things were more comfortable outfits. Like I tried to make sure I was wearing Marvel stuff for Endgame because Endgame also came out while we were at that con. But I didn't do any MCU looks because I didn't have any in particular from that movie that I really wanted to do. Although now I want to crochet the quantum like suits into like a fun little sweater or something.
Hmm.
Like that would have been great for the movie. So like I wore like a Scarlet Witch that I already had, and then the next day I wore a Ms. Marvel based on like her cover, which just meant I had to like her original cover. It just meant I had to like paint a lightning bolt, and I had the scarf that I like bought 5 years ago, and then I crocheted a jacket that she wears in Champions that I just thought was like the coolest. It was like a little Letterman jacket, but for their superhero squad, and it was just so cute. I was like, oh, they have jackets. They're official now. So I made that, and then that's what I wore when I went to get Jim Zub to like sign my Champions comics. That was really fun. And then the fourth day, because it was snowing the day before, I was like, I'll wear something warm. So I wore like my Miss Joke from My Hero Academia because it's just these like giant crochet shorts that are just so warm, and it worked out really well.
That is good planning there on your part, so that way you do not freeze to death.
I also had May from Overwatch, but like at the fourth day of a con where I'd already been emotionally like devastated from Endgame, I was like, I just can't handle wearing pillows on my feet because I crocheted her like cartoonishly large boots, and I
Okay.
kind of have to waddle when I wear that costume. And I was like, I'm not up for that today. It's the Sunday of a con. I need to be mobile.
Exactly. Well, you got mobile and you got to have comfy shorts and warmth. What's been one of your I guess, over the past couple of years you've had a number of different projects. What's your highlight? What's the one that you're the proudest of? Like, look at me, I did this.
Well, speaking of my shorts, those were actually the first pants that I've ever crocheted, and they're striped vertically, which I thought would somehow make it easier when I was like, yes, these will be the first like shorts I make. Like I've made short shorts before where it's basically like you just look at like almost an underwear pattern and then you like just crochet a couple pant legs out of the holes, but like these were ones that were meant to be like super wearable shorts that like had like length, and that was just the most intense process ever. It was not easy in the slightest. So I'm super proud of those. And Perfuma, I think I'm pretty proud of because she was all plant-based fibers and stuff. It's all cotton. I was gonna use some bamboo for it, and I still might when I go in and add more details. But as of now, it's all cotton. And I was like, oh, it's really cool because it's the character would appreciate that it's all plant-based fiber. And then for Katsucon, I made a Vulpix cosplay, which I'm really happy with. And the tails were such a struggle. I put wire in them. I had to like go to the school bookstore and like try to like not make it super obvious that I was buying this for a cosplay. Not that like they care. They tell it to the public, but I'm like, my school is not that large. It's only a little bit larger than my high school. So like you're gonna remember that I'm the person who's like saying, I need help getting my like crochet tail to stand up when I tie it around my waist. And I don't need you to think of that the next time I come in for like a super serious like assignment of any sort. So so it's like, okay, like I just need strong wire that'll stand up when you put like fabric stuff on it. And I actually sent my roommate to go get it. And it was a time. But yeah, I got that to work out and that made me really happy, and that was like a original design, and I got to wear that with two other amazing cosplayers, Adorkable and Pokeball of Yarn, who are both crochet cosplayers, and it was just super special because after like 5 years of crocheting full cosplays and stuff, I hadn't really cosplayed with other people that did like yarn works and stuff. Like we all sort of like adjacently like did our own thing. And then we finally did something together as a group, and I was no longer like in a group cosplay where I was the yarn one, or people wanted to do a group cosplay and I knew they cared about accuracy, so I didn't bother saying I wanted to join because none of the characters would be wearing something crocheted, so I would make them inaccurate. I was just like in a group of people who all wore yarn costumes, and it was awesome. People loved it, we loved it. It was just the most magical thing. Um, so that one was a huge one for me, even though like construction wise, it's still like a fairly simple costume. that one just like brings me so much joy.
That was one of the things that I was really shocked to see, was you with other people that had done that made cosplays out of, crochet, because I remember when I stumbled across you and even requested you as a guest 3 years ago. I was like, I've never seen anything like this before. And then to see multiple people in the same picture doing it, I that blew my mind. I could not believe it.
Yeah, I mean, that made me like cry happy tears when I got those photos back because I even in high school, my like school did something for like homecoming. We do like a homecoming float thing, which I've been told is not really a thing up here in Canada. So we do floats, and it would be like the freshmen, sophomore, juniors, and seniors all do their own floats, and like people would dress up, they decorate their floats, it'd be like a whole thing. And one year the theme was superheroes, so each class got assigned like a superhero theme, and ours was Avengers. And I remember being like approached by the student committee, like, would you want to come on and help us with this? And I was like, sure, yeah, I know enough about superheroes. And they're like, we know you dress up and stuff. So I was like, yeah, I could definitely help with costumes and whatnot. And so I spent like the whole summer getting really excited about it because I'm like, oh, they asked me at like the beginning or like the end of the year, and then in the fall when homecoming starts, we're gonna start building this float and stuff. And I'm like ready to help people with costumes and like figure it out, and even like tried learning to sew stuff because I knew I couldn't crochet a bunch of costumes for people, and I couldn't teach people to crochet enough, but I could like definitely figure out like mass producing like some small little like Avengers logos or whatnot. And then when it like came to the first meeting, I showed them some of my work where it was like crocheted stuff and like trying to be like, yeah, I have every reason to be on this committee. One, because I'm a huge Avengers fan, and I definitely know more than everyone in this room does, uh, which was so true because a couple of them, when they made the float, had only seen the first 15 minutes of Avengers. We tried watching it there and then they stopped it because they're like, all right, that's fine. We can design it now. So they didn't even name their tower Avengers Tower. It was Stark Tower. I'm like, if you'd watched the end of the movie, you'd know to do this. And then I wasn't invited to the next meeting. So I asked a friend who was on like the council, sort of like, hey, why didn't they tell me when this is going on? And they're like, oh, crochet costumes aren't really what we're looking for. We don't think they have the ability to win anything. So we don't really need your help anymore. And I was like,
What?
excuse me? I didn't even say I was going to crochet your costumes. Bold of you to assume that, like, I would give you that special treatment. So like the fact to have like all these people crocheting their cosplays and stuff, and for people to be like, wow, that's really cool. I'm like, hell yeah, it is. We worked hard on this, and it's just as valid as the people who do foam smithing or sewing. And like we have a whole group chat of I don't know, they're like 15 of us or so now, and we just like sort of keep each other in the loop of like who's going to be at these cons, do we want to do like group costumes, and like sharing patterns and references. And I actually started another page to like share other people's like crochet and knit work called Hook and Needles Cosplay, and that's just on Instagram. But like if you message me on there, I'll add you to like a crochet cosplay Discord. And I say crochet cosplay, but it's meant for like knitting and crochet, like, and it's just we're trying to build this community of people who really enjoy this. So it's been a really great year.
That is awesome. And I'm excited to see, the stuff that you're going to be putting out next. I love all the stuff that you create. It's just, it just blows my mind that you're able to make the costumes or make what you make just by crocheting. It's just incredible.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that.
For those who have listened to this episode and they want to follow you or check out your work or maybe go shopping because you actually do make and sell stuff on your store, what are some of the best places that they can find you on the internet?
Well, the number one place would probably just be to go to my website, thescarletstitch.com, because then I have all of my links. But I am on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Tumblr, Pinterest. I'm pretty much everywhere, but I can't really say that because there are a couple social media that I'm not on. Instagram and Twitter, I would say, are my main. Instagram, I'm the Scarlet Stitch, Twitter, I'm Scarlet_Stitch, I believe. I know one of them, like my title of the Scarlet Stitch was too long, and I think that's Twitter. I also have a YouTube channel where I do some con vlogs, and I do upload my TikToks for people who don't want to actually download the TikTok app. uh, I do like compilations. That's mostly what you'll see. I'll do some like makeup get ready with me's, and crochet tutorials are a big thing that are coming. I currently have patterns up on my website for free. Once I get better at writing patterns, maybe I'll start selling them, but I don't think I could charge for them now because I don't really know enough about what I'm writing. And I have an Etsy. So, like you said, I do sell my work. I have some ready to buy stuff on my Etsy, and I do take commissions as well. Commissions take a lot longer because I am in school. I'll be in school for the next until June, so next 2 months, and then I'll have like 2 months off of school where I can like work on commissions nonstop. But while I'm in school, I still like take them on. It's just my timelines for them have to be a lot longer because I'm a busy woman.
Hmm. Absolutely. You got to get your comics and go to Tim Hortons for donuts and eat poutine because
Yeah,
that's all Canada stuff and it's all delicious. Well, don't eat your comics, but the other
yeah.
two are good.
The comic store, I walk past a Tim Hortons to get to it. So it's just like a dangerous walk where I live.
Oh my goodness. Well, I will make sure to have all the links in the show notes as well as on the website. So that way, if anyone is interested, you can definitely check out Joe's information and see some pictures and maybe buy some stuff. And Joe, it has been an absolute pleasure to have you back on the podcast and catch up with you. And thank you for those 3 years back when you agreed to come on to some random person's non-existent podcast at the time, because I'm always grateful to my original people that came on and just gave me a chance when there was nothing to see here yet or listen to.
Oh, for sure. This has been such a great time. And I actually got to write it on my CV for a school assignment. So, I mean, thank you for giving me the opportunity to have something to put on my CV.
Well, that's the first time I've ever heard that, but I appreciate it nonetheless because that's really cool.
Thank you for listening to Tales from the Fandom. Subscribe to us on iTunes or your podcast app of choice. Follow us on Facebook at www.facebook.com/talesfromthefandom to see photos, links, leave feedback, and check out upcoming guests. If you'd like to be a guest, email David at talesfromthefandom@gmail.com.